here is a demonstration of value drawing. So as we continue working on this, what I start to do is to sort of spot my way around the drawing and check my coordinates. Check my coordinates a little bit. I want this to be right. I want to make sure that the shape of this shadow, the distance between these objects is convincing and consistent with what I'm seeing. There's nothing wrong with taking a drawing and double checking it for your proportions, your location, the axes of certain things, and actually the plot drawings. Like sometimes actually like laying in like almost little measuring lines, little diagrammatic lines. No matter what you do in your drawing, you're never going to be creating that thing. You're never going to be recreating that object. So you're symbolizing where it is in space and what it is. And if a line helps to do that, like this little diagonal line here, if it helps you indicate where things fall, it's just fine to do that. It's just a drawing. If you break a piece of charcoal, it's all good. So I'm going to try and lay in a little more dark up in here. And if you notice, I'm using line very sparingly. I'm trying to use it as a way to indicate the edges of form, to indicate the light source. And I'm also using, I try and use my finger some to bring things in. Now, I want to create an area in here. I'm going to introduce a new tool to you. Earlier I was using this putty eraser, which now comes in bright yellow. I have also this vinyl eraser. And a lot of people are used to using erasers as ways to like clean things up and make things go away. But I oftentimes like to use an eraser as a blending tool. So if I want to like work, I'm not trying to erase this, I'm trying to even it out a little bit. I'm trying to just even out this area. Maybe I want to lay in this shadow a little bit. And I also want to talk a little bit about shadows. Because the shadow itself has a bunch of subtleties to it, and I'm going to get to that in a second, just as soon as I get this little indicator line there. Okay. I feel like I should whisper when I do these. So, for example, I'm going to move over here to this area where we have a shadow across this. Now, and if you carefully observe it, one of the things that you'll see about a shadow, and I suggest you guys try this at home, is to put a sphere or an egg or some regular object on a white surface and illuminate it from the side with some kind of bright light. And you'll see that at the farthest point away from the light, like here, you have what's called the core of the value. But you also have a place in the drawing where there's a core to the shadow, which is, it seems along the edge, sometimes it gets a little fuzzy. It gets a little, looks a little bit like, almost, it's sometimes if you look closely at it, if you zoom in on it, it's really, really crisp. The shadow itself has its own value scale. It's a little bit darker around the edges. And you'll notice this is the first time that I'm using a hatching technique, using back and forth motion. Just to very lightly stroke the paper to get this sort of just a little bit darker of value in certain areas. I'll come back on that too. And right under here, I've got a little bit of a shadow. I'm gonna hold off on that just a little bit. I'm just gonna suggest it there. I'm gonna build this little area up through here. Because again, it's not, the highlight on this side is right in here. There's a value that comes across this. So our light source is sort of in front of us. It's not coming harshly from the side. So you can probably, one of the things I'm observing is along this edge, there's a little bit of a dark, it seems to be a little bit of a darkness. I'm just drawing what I'm seeing. And along this edge, it gets a little darker too. So work that in there. And what am I playing for here? Eventually, in this drawing, what I would like to have happen is I want my whites to go away. And I want my drama to be inside of the objects that I'm drawing. So I'm going to have to work these areas up through here. Don't forget where the light source is coming from. And you notice I'm using the side of this, making big strokes. You don't want to waste any time here. You want to make sure that you get this. I could have done this at the very beginning, but I wanted you guys to see this. And you want these strokes to be even. You know, you don't want it to look like a waffle or a checkerboard. You know, you want to work these things. Now, this is something not a lot of people do, but when I'm working on the left-hand side of a drawing, I'm comfortable just shifting to my left hand. Some people have to turn their drawings, which is fine. But I'm just laying in some value here at the very edge of this. And I think what we're going to do here is going to check my location of objects. I'll come down here just a little bit. Remember now I'm using compressed charcoal here, which is still chalky and a bit soft. It's movable, which is kind of cool. I can work it with my finger. Some people like to use a blending stick, which I have a miniature one here. Some people like to use these little guys. They're very tightly rolled pieces of absorbent paper to blend, to sort of work the material into the page. So you notice this is just a piece of paper. I mean, it's finely, it's very densely rolled, but it's called blotter paper, and used to be used for cooching water out of, people who make paper would use blotter paper to sort of pull the water out of the paper pulp to make a cast piece of paper.